Lobster for Madame.
Salad for Madame.
Corn for Madame.
Mashed potatoes for Madame.
And butter for Madame.
Sour cream for Madame.
And chives for Madame.
And is everything okay for you?
Okay.
Okay, let's see.
Three college students getting caught up in a love triangle and a small circle of friends. One of 5 new movies Gene and I will be reviewing this time on Sneak Previews. And this is Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune.
Across the aisle from me, Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times. Now, in addition to a small circle of friends, which I liked, we'll review Bill Murray in the comedy Where the Buffalo Roam, Suzanne Summers in the comedy Nothing Personal, Gary Busey in the comedy Fooling Around. But before all those laughs, or we hope they're laughs, Roger begins with an action picture called Folks.
Well, terrorists have held everything else for ransom in the movies, and so I suppose that North Sea oil drilling rigs were overdue. Folks is a new British thriller about a team of saboteurs led by Anthony Perkins who threaten to blow up a Navy ship and an oil platform unless they're paid £25 million. The details of the blackmail scheme are pretty routine, but Folks does have one original touch. Its hero, named Folks, who's played by Roger Moore, is an eccentric Englishman who hates women, loves cats, guzzles scotch, and does needlepoint for relaxation.
Madam, this is a non-smoker, which is the reason that I, and undoubtedly this gentleman here, selected this carriage.
This gentleman happens to be my husband, and he does not object to me smoking. Have you a first-class ticket?
You're unusually dressed for a ticket collector. Aren't you going to clip it?
You will find a smoker.
A wise decision.
That character is quite a switch from Roger Moore's performances as James Bond 007. Apart from his personal eccentricities, Folks is an underwater demolitions expert who has a plan for sneaking up on the terrorists and knocking them out before they can blow up the oil platform. Once his plan gets going, the movie's reduced to pretty routine action.
Thanks, boy.
Girl.
Look like a boy. You act like a boy.
Okay, I'm a boy. I was hiding in the lifeboat.
Don't take the one in red. Wait. That's good, boy. If he comes to, slug him. And keep out of the way. bloody fool.
Guess there are some folks you just don't mess with.
Oh.
Folks isn't a very good movie, maybe because we've seen this basic plot so many times before, and I can't recommend it. But I do have to admit that Roger Moore as Folks is an interesting character.
We only disagree on the last thing you just said. I
Okay.
think the movie's lousy and he's lousy too. And frankly, I think the movie wastes its time trying to develop little oddities for this tough guy. Who cares if he does needlepoint? This film blows it in its most crucial area, which is action. It's dull. That stuff on the boat, all tight shots like they were doing a TV show. No sense of the drama, the oil rig swinging the boat. No, just no action. Cheap, dull.
Sound to me like a man who's seen too many thrillers lately, Siskel.
Yeah, it is not a very exciting picture, and you would think it would be. It doesn't compare to any James Bond film.
Let me point this out to you. One of the interesting things is that they obviously made Roger Moore as unlike James Bond as they possibly could. They gave him a beard, they gave him these Scottish clothes, they gave him all these strange... He hates women.
Yeah.
For example, he loves cats. And then if you look in the newspaper ads, they have him drinking a glass of champagne, which is not his drink in the movie, and women are clinging to his legs. The ads make him look like James Bond, then you go to the movie and he's the opposite of James Bond. They're totally confused in their marketing.
I think they got scared and decided to sell it as Bond, and they didn't have a picture. Forget the ads. The movie stinks.
I think
that's
you're right.
Okay. I was looking forward to Where the Buffalo Roam, our next picture, an account of Rolling Stone counterculture journalist Hunter S. Thompson, who wrote so colorfully in the early 70s about such subjects as our national elections in the book Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, and on the Las Vegas scene in the book Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. In his writings, Thompson portrayed himself as a wild and crazy drug fiend and boozer. He may be that, I don't know, but for sure he was a superb cultural reporter, and unfortunately the movie leaves that out and just concentrate on Bill Murray from Saturday Night Live playing Thompson as a complete clown. For example, when he plays touch football in his hotel room with a hotel waiter and the waiter's girlfriend, Thompson is causing quite a ruckus, and that upsets another hotel resident who stops two midget bellboys to ask them for help.
Excuse me. You guys, come here for a minute, will you? What's your name?
Briggs?
Benny?
Blackie. Listen, you gotta do me a favor. You know what tomorrow...
Well, it's funny a little bit, but a question occurs. Where is Hunter Thompson, the writer, in all of that? He's supposed to be covering the Super Bowl for Rolling Stone magazine, but we never find out what he thinks or feels about the Super Bowl or what he's writing about it. And that's the whole problem with Where the Buffalo Roam. It's slapstick comedy that tells us nothing about its subject, writer Hunter S. Thompson. This movie is about a writer. It's supposed to be about a writer, at least. No, it's just about a clown.
You know, there's a problem with that, and I think you probably agree. The problem with all movies about writers is it's very boring to show a writer writing. Now, if you have Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel, you can complain about his arm cramping or something, but a writer at a typewriter, that's nothing. And so they just have all of these stunts, and Hunter S. Thompson racing around making a fool of himself, which for all I know may be what he did in real life, but it's not why we're interested in him.
That's right. The movie is more about this character that they kid around in the Doonesbury cartoon strip. They call him Duke there. And it's a laughing-stock kind of film. I think that part of the problem may have been that right now, Bill Murray is a bigger star to young people, who the movie's obviously pitched at. It was a bigger star than Hunter S. Thompson. And as a result, Bill Murray's sort of a clownish character on Saturday Night Live, so the movie's been structured to help Bill Murray's career and forget Thompson, forget the writer. As you say, it's too tough to show a writer. We lose the writer.
There's somebody else who's forgotten in this picture. It's allegedly about the friendship between Hunter S. Thompson and his lawyer, who's named in the movie Carl Laszlo, played by Peter Boyle.
Right.
At no point do we understand why they have a friendship, why they're friends, what they have in common, or why they like each other. He's just thrown in as part of the general melee.
Here's the worst thing of all. This movie's about a writer. Any movie about a writer ought to make you want to read what the guy's written. You would never get that feeling from this picture.
That's for sure.
You'll remember Bill Murray more than you'll ever remember Hunter S. Thompson from the film.
Okay, well, there have been a lot of unlikely combinations in the movies recently, but I can't think of any that are quite as unlikely as the combinations in Nothing Personal. This is a movie that teams up Donald Sutherland and Suzanne Summers, now there's a combination for you, in a plot involving romance, intrigue, and a campaign to save the lives of baby seals. This picture has everything. It's soap opera, softcore sex, melodrama, and political piety all wrapped up in one. And here's the big scene where Sutherland discovers that his hotshot lawyer is a woman.
Do you think I could see the lawyer now?
You're talking to her, Professor.
You're A. Adams?
I'm Abigail Adams.
You're the attorney?
Yeah. See?
No.
Cornell undergraduate, 1969, magna cum laude.
Yeah, you're the lawyer.
Harvard Law School, 1973, passed my bar exams on the very first try.
Well, congratulations. Do you Do you have a yellow pages I could look at?
Oh, sure I do.
I'm sorry, Miss Adams, but I think that I'm going to have to...
You're not even going to give me a chance?
Well, Miss Adams, I need someone with a little bit more experience
I'm
than you have.
experienced. I am experienced.
You know,
I have
Miss
spent the
Adams,
last 5 years preparing pleadings, filing briefs, and doing research in the back room for firms like Pritchett, Douglas, and Levy,
Miss
waiting
Adams.
for someone to trust me in a courtroom with their wife's speeding ticket. You guys are all the same, aren't you?
Come on, Miss Adams. It doesn't have to do with any of that. I'm trying to protect those poor, helpless animals from the combined power.
Damn
United
it,
States
Professor,
Army, the
I
United
may be
States
a woman,
Senate.
I'm aware of that,
It
but
doesn't have
I
anything
know
to do with you
that I
being a
can
woman.
handle this case as well
Well,
or
I'm
better than
sure
any
that
of
may
these
be part, but I
Washington
can't-
lawyers. In fact, probably better.
Well, maybe,
I'm
yeah.
more motivated, I
Miss-
cost less, and most important of all, I've got
Adams.
10 times the hours to give to it.
Miss Adams.
Come on, you don't need to be so formal. You can call me Abigail, or you can call me Abby. I'll call you Roger, being that we're going to be working together so closely.
Abigail?
Yes, Roger? See, isn't that better? Kiss me.
This is obviously a lawyer-client relationship made in heaven, and they team up to save the seals and each other.
Oh.
Roger,
Oh,
that was nice.
it was.
I thought you had a sexy mouth, but I wasn't sure. You have a very sexy mouth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Abigail, once I get started, I'm not a robot, you know.
I know you're an animal. I know.
No, I better go home.
You are home, Roger. This is your home.
Yeah.
What's the matter, Roger? Are you afraid that sex will compromise our fiduciary relationship? Now, shall I lock the door? Or would you like to live dangerously? You do remember how, don't you?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sure that if we turn out the light and lie down, everything will work out.
I don't know if that's a kiss or mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Nothing Personal is an incredibly bad movie, one of the most inept directing jobs of the year, and it's never worse than at the end, where a cross-country car chase goes on and gets so confusing that we're asking each other, who's being chased by whom and for what reason? What's going on here? There are all kinds of good causes thrown into this movie, like American Indian rights and the preservation of wild animals. We're in favor of those good things, but the causes are just marched in and out of a plot that's unbelievable, badly organized, unconvincing, and boring. Frankly, Nothing Personal was a strong contender for Dog of the Week as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, it almost made my dog, too. It's a terrible film. And you know what this picture is really about? It's not even a story here. It's really a rush job to get Suzanne Summers into her first movie.
Right.
They see the television ratings that say she's a popular performer, so they find something for her, and they found this. It's a half-baked script. Donald Sutherland, gee, he's been in so many good movies about real issues. MASH, Steelyard Blues. They throw him. What is he doing in this picture? It's all wrong.
Essentially, if you look at this movie from a cynical point of view, what they have filmed here is not the story, but the deal. This is a Canadian tax shelter picture, and they have to have so many Canadians in it in order to qualify under the tax shelter laws. Donald Sutherland is a Canadian. In the movie, there is a talk show that Donald Sutherland appears on, and the host is David Steinberg, who's a Canadian, and the other guest is Craig Russell, the female impersonator. He's a Canadian. He does his imitation of Mae West. I don't think she's a Canadian. And I have nothing against Canadians. Some of my best friends are Canadians. But in this case, it wasn't enough to make the deal and to rush Suzanne Summers into the picture. They should have stopped until they had a screenplay that was worth making into a film.
Yeah, to make it clear, when they put a chunk like that little talk show segment in the movie, it just dropped in out of the blue. And there's money decisions behind it. It's a stupid decision to put her into a film. There are plenty of other actresses who are far more deserving of a big movie than she is. It's a waste, a total waste. Our next movie, A Small Circle of Friends, is an affectionate look at the late 1960s at Harvard College kids flirting with love in the Vietnam War protest movement. This is not the most stunning movie I've ever seen, but the quality of its young actors makes the story very appealing. For example, there's Brad Davis, the young star from Midnight Express, trying to pick up Karen Allen after she's just seen him steal a book from the Harvard Library.
Do I steal books from the library?
No, never. No, this is the first time. You see, I'm writing an article for the Crimson, and this is a government journal, and they won't let me take it out of the library. I am not a felon.
That's encouraging.
I like your sense of humor. Isn't it great that we're free? I mean, liberated, that you're free, that I'm free.
Oh, yeah, that's really something.
And no more parents, no more restrictive rules on our natural inclinations. You see, I believe there's only two real choices in life. Either you play it safe or you take a chance. Now, I believe in taking a chance. What about you? What do you think?
I think that if you really want to go to bed with me, you ought to just come right out and ask.
I'm asking.
And I'm turning you down, sorry.
Well, their romance does take off, but soon it becomes a love triangle as Karen Allen begins living with Brad Davis's best friend. It's sort of a friendly triangle at first, but the mood turns ugly when Davis gets a bad number in the Army draft lottery. He's called up real soon. Karen Allen and her boyfriend, Jamison Parker, try to console him.
Divide and conquer. Yeah, that's what they did, all right. The high numbers against the low numbers. You get 300, I get 3. People like Greenblatt and me, you and me, we used to be equals. Now we're enemies.
All right. Now listen to me, Leo. You got to get a hold of yourself.
I don't want to die in the DMZ. I don't even know where it is.
You're not gonna die.
Yeah? Look at this. Now you tell me what this is. January, killed 1,316, wounded 6,430, missing in action 831. February, killed, wounded, missing, killed, wounded, killed, dead, dead. You think napalm is bad? They got this new thing over there called bouncing Betties. The thing triggers off at groin level. Do you know what that does to you? Do you?
You're panicking. I mean, maybe you're not even fit.
I am fit. I am fit as a fiddle.
You're not alone. We'll think of something, I promise.
Leo, come on. Get cleaned up. Take a shower. Everything's gonna be okay.
Okay? I promise.
Okay.
Well, things have certainly grown more complicated in their relationship since we met them in front of that library. It's a little melodramatic in that room, but the film does have an undeniable ring of truth to it. It does look like college students talking. The love triangle, nicely handled, and the acting is just fine. I personally found the film quite nostalgic, taking me back to my college days, and my guess is that a small circle of friends will hold some appeal, maybe a lot of appeal, Roger, for people our age.
Gene, I think you're right. And you know, as I was watching this film, I kept thinking back 10 or 11 years to those movies around 1969. Remember the Students in Revolt, the Campus in Flames movies? You had Strawberry Statement, RPM, Getting Straight.
RPM had Anne Margaret as a college student, with Anthony Quinn, the professor.
Right, Anne Margaret, the typical undergraduate. I sat there, I remember 10 or 11 years ago in the theater laughing at the screen and saying, no college student ever talked like this, dressed like this, thought like this, lived like this. And now watching this film, A Small Circle of Friends, it was nostalgic in that it goes back 10 or 11 years, but it remembers very accurately. And I think that a lot of people who were in college in the 60s are going to recognize themselves or their friends or their campus in this movie.
And it gets real serious about 3 interesting little lives. One person wants to be a doctor, the woman wants to be a painter, the other kid wants to be a newspaper reporter, and we really get caught up in their desires. The war, of course, intrudes. A good film with 3 characters to really enjoy and 3 good young actors playing them.
Yeah, Karen Allen in particular, we didn't mention too much about her, was very good. Small Circle of Friends is a movie we can recommend, and the only one on this show we can recommend. I can tell you that because I happen to know we can't recommend the next film, which is Foolin' Around, and it stars one of my favorite young actors, Gary Busey, who was so good as the star of the Buddy Holly story. But in Foolin' Around, Busey stars as a college student from the sticks who falls in love with the rich and brilliant Annette O'Toole. She plays a psychology major and needs a volunteer for a weird experiment.
Can I scoot all the way back?
You strap me in?
Mm-hmm. Put your arm there, please. This is an experiment in psychological response to pleasure-pain.
What do you mean, pleasure, pain?
Arm.
Right here?
Hmm? Don't look so worried. We've done this many, many times before. Just think of it as a little game. We're going to ask you some questions, and you answer right or wrong. And if you answer correctly, you get a little shock, that's all.
A little what?
A little shock. It's a study of depression. If we tell you any more, it will spoil the results.
Well, I was just looking for a part-time job. Where are you going? Can you hear me out there?
Mr. McDaniels, please don't shout. I can hear you fine. Okay, Mr. McDaniels, this is just an example of how the experiment works. Is the object I'm holding right or wrong?
Right or wrong for what?
No, just respond right or wrong.
A banana? I guess it's wrong.
Oh, that was very good, Mr. McDaniels. Very good.
Well, why was it wrong?
Oh, I'm sorry, we can't tell you that. Okay, this one?
What was that other one? That other one was right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then that's right.
Hang on, I'll be right here.
There's a scene that could have been inspired by The Absent-Minded Professor or Abbott and Costello Go to College. The whole movie's on that same level of sophomoric cliches, just like that Roger Moore thriller, Folks, that we talked about earlier in the program. Here's another plot we've seen so many times before, we know it by heart. The poor kid falls in love with the rich girl, and he has to compete with her fiancé, and of course, the fiancé is an effete slob and snob. Okay. There's naturally a big showdown in the church as the girl's marching down the aisle, but we've lost interest a long time before that. And fooling around is a complete waste of Gary Busey's talent.
That's the point that I'm really after, too. Gary Busey, he wins an Academy Award nomination for the Buddy Holly story. He's great supporting Dustin Hoffman in the movie Straight Time. And then this, you sit there and you wonder what's going on here. Here's a serious actor in a numbskull movie. Abbott and Costello, Disney. You're right, it's stupid. There's nothing here. He's slapstick. He plays a construction worker. He falls around on buildings. This is dumb. I was shocked by it.
I was shocked and disappointed. Somebody else who disappointed me was Annette O'Toole, who plays the girl. You might remember a picture that we liked a couple of years ago called One-on-One, starring Robbie Benson as a college basketball player. Annette O'Toole was terrific in that movie. Here she's totally wasted. The script is written at a submoronic level, and the movie is just a real you just stand there looking at the screen. You can't believe.
Well, what you're waiting for, I think it's because of Busey. You know, this is his first film after the Academy Award nomination, and you sit there and you say, this is what he made?
Well, a lot of bad movies get made, Gene, and here's our canine friend Spot the Wonder Dog leaping into the balcony to announce the Dog of the Week, the week's worst movies.
I think mine's pretty horrible. My dog this week is Death Ship, the idiotic tale of an old World War II Nazi torture ship that appears once again on the high seas, rams into a cruise ship carrying a bunch of dumbbells, and slowly begins to kill them off one by one. George Kennedy. It's not enough he makes those lousy airport movies. Stars as the cruise ship commander who gets himself whipped up into a neo-Nazi frenzy and begins to do the bidding of the mysterious ship. He tells Richard Crenna, his subordinate, in a typical speech, "This ship needs your blood, Trevor. Blood, blood, blood. Your wife's blood, blood, blood. Your children's blood, blood, blood." We get the point long before we have to suffer seeing a whole bunch of people hanged on meat hooks. To say the least, everyone associated with Death Ship went overboard.
Oh, it sounds like a pretty bloody bad movie, Gene.
Yes.
My dog this week is a trashy piece of softcore sex called Night Games. It was directed by Roger Vadim, a French director who makes a specialty out of discovering and exploiting sex pot actresses. He's uncovered such stars as Brigitte Bardot, Catherine Deneuve, and Jane Fonda, and now his latest discovery is American actress Cindy Pickett. He discovered her on the CBS television soap opera, The Guiding Light, and for all I know, and I watched The Guiding Light, she might really be talented. You sure can't tell from this movie. It's a moronic and totally confused fantasy in which the sexually repressed heroine is left alone in a large mansion when her husband leaves town, and then she engages in a series of sexual fantasies that may be real or may be dreams but are definitely laughable. This sort of exploitation film, sex masquerading as instant psychoanalysis, is about 15 years out of date, and so is Night Games.
Okay, so much for the dogs. Now to recap the main movies on this show. We agreed on all 5 pictures, sort of rare for us. We both hate the deadly oil rig ransom movie, Folks, starring that tree trunk of an actor, Roger Moore. We both say no to Folks. And we're both disappointed by Bill Murray, clowning it up as writer Hunter S. Thompson in Where the Buffalo Roam. We can't recommend you see it. Suzanne Summers and Donald Sutherland are ridiculous as a couple fighting for baby seals in Nothing Personal, a lackluster comedy that isn't even worthy of being played on TV. A double no for that, too. But we both like the 1960s college romance A Small Circle of Friends, with fine performances by Jameson Parker, Karen Allen, and Brad Davis. But we were disappointed by Fooling Around, a simple-minded college movie starring Gary Busey. He's a good actor who belongs in better films than this.
So, one fairly good movie, A Small Circle of Friends, and 4 lousy ones. And that's it for this week. Until next time, we'll see you at the movies.
Funding for sneak previews was provided by this station and by other public television stations.